Okay, we're here. No problemo. So yeah, let's get into it. What is blame? Blame is being lame. Let's start out with a lame joke. Blame is for the lame. And escape. I guess it's trying to cover something up, right? A cape. I mean, I could go into the etymology and really look into it, but just from the face value, it seems like you would use a cape to hide something. So a lot of people, a lot of lame people are hiding things. And in their efforts to hide things, they escape things, right? And the first thing we should go into is when we blamescape, when we blame and escape, we escape all accountability. We escape all responsibility. So one could say that blamescaping, blaming others and escaping, is the most irresponsible thing you can do. And it seems that there is a direct correlation between responsibility and I guess the level of magic, the level of power, the level of force, the level of flow, and the amount of blame is correlated with the amount of resistance that one is met within the world. So it's funny, right, how it works that way. The more I blame the world, the more the world resists my efforts, the more the world resists me. And I don't know if we'll go all into this, but blame is the me. Because who is there really to blame? So doesn't it seem very obvious, folks, that with accountability comes great power. With responsibility, right? With great power comes great responsibility. Which means that the opposite must be true. That without responsibility, I have no power. I have no say. I have no rational ability. I have no sanity to, I guess, change the tide or change the flow of how things are going. So that's very interesting, that with accountability and with responsibility, with the ability to keep account of all my actions and not run from my actions, and at the same time to be responsible for what happens to me and what I do to others, therein lies the key to all power. So immediately I would like to go to food. Because in the kind of situation that we're in right now, 2% of the population makes the food or grows the food for the rest of the population. So, we can blame the industry. We can blame the farmers. We can blame, the heavy metals being sprayed in the air. We can blame so many different things, the bad water. It almost seems like the blame is endless. But is not the source of all the blame one? Does not the blame originate from one? So when you're when it comes to your ability to take account of things, or your ability to respond to things, or to have an adequate response to things, or to be a sensible person enough to, not be insensitive and actually sense that something needs changing, sense that something is in conflict, sense that something is wrong, I think is the first step. So then we have to talk about how blame is a leakage of energy. Being lame, putting a cape over yourself, blaming and escaping is synonymous with losing the power and saying, everything around me has power over me. And because everything around me has power over me, I am utterly helpless. Those things go hand in hand. So when I blame another, really I should be blaming myself. Because as long as I'm blaming someone, or I'm blaming something, I will be outsourcing the power. And so now comes in the fallacy of a precarious salvation, of a saving happening outside of me. Because as long as something doesn't come and save, I can blame that which has not come to save me. So in some sense, the blame in something not coming to save me saves me from doing the work myself. So a lot of people are rescuing themselves from doing the work by a subtle ideological outsourcing, or a subtle subconscious blaming that's going on with everyone, right? And so really this blame becomes procrastination. Because as long as I have something to blame, I can push things off. As long as there's a reason for a problem to continue, the problem can damn well continue. There's a good reason for it. So let's go back into food. And reason being, food, there is no one to blame outside of the person who is giving you or feeding you the food. So when it comes to a child who can't eat his or her own food just yet, of course the parent is to blame, right? And there is no way out of that. But when it comes to someone who's able to feed themselves, and at some point someone who can choose the foods they're eating, there can be no blame. Because I am entirely responsible for what happens after this point, after that point of ingestion. So let's think on that. Let's think on those words: responsibility, accountability, and on the opposite side, blame, escape, avoidance, running from facts. And ultimately outsourcing power. And putting things off. And continuing circular habits. So what would happen if all the points that we are blaming disappeared? What would happen if there was nothing to blame? I'm curious, right? Because if there was nothing to blame, again, wouldn't that mean a full retention of energy or a full retention of power? So question is, can we live a life without blame? And yes, to an extent, it's, there's no one else to blame but yourself, right? There's that argument to it too. But can you not even blame yourself? And when I say don't blame yourself, I don't mean justify the sins, justify the conflicted actions, justify the acidic food intake, but to not have any sense of blame at all. Because as long as there is blame on another or myself, it seems like that blame is the very thing that will keep any division going. So we went to the heart of blame, didn't we? And escaping is blame is division. Escape is division. Because as long as I'm escaping from something, I'm not one with it. As long as I'm blaming something, I can't deal with it. So not only does this come with, my parent or my child, I blame them, or my teacher, or whatever it is, my horrible society, my world, but it also comes from the blame of the self. Because I've suffered in the past, it's always the past, right? It's always the knowledge, it's always the trauma, it's always something back there, Because I blame something that happened back there, there's no room for something else to come into being. There's no room for improvement. An improvement in the sense where I drop the need for improvement altogether, meaning I drop the problem altogether. So at the core of blamescaping lies separation, lies division. And in division and separation, there can't be a oneness in energy. There's always a lack and a leak, a leaking or a lacking of energy. So I guess we should be careful with our words too. Maybe this is why I'm not doing as many lives, but it's almost as if we shouldn't say too much. I think Confucius or someone said that, the people of old, they didn't speak much because they wouldn't have to constantly catch up with their words. And this is why I say, let's be careful with what we say and who we blame, because we give that a lot of power. Very interesting stuff. And so it's interesting with the coined term blamescaping also comes scapegoating. So can we not offload any of our energy to solve a problem on any other object, thing, person, idea, right? Trauma, self-induced hypnosis? Can we be done with all of it? All scapegoats. And perhaps that's what crucifixion is to be done entirely with scapegoats. Because again, it's just a very, very enticing question. What would happen if there was nowhere to escape, no one to blame? What would happen if there was no blamescaping? No more escaping blame. Blame escaping. What if there was nothing to blame? So I won't say too much and I'll leave you with that, folks. I love you guys a lot. I'll check the chat more with my computers here. And sayonara. Peace.